Welcome to We Have Spoken, Season 3, Episode 3. This is the podcast discussing our favorite Star Wars show, The Mandalorian. In this episode, we'll be discussing Chapter 19, The Convert, written by Jon Favreau and Noah Clore, and directed by Lee Isaac Chung. It aired on March 15th, 2023, exclusively on Disney Plus, and we're recording this on March 16th. My name is Dennis, and think of me as your yellow travel biscuit on this journey. With me, as always, is my prequel apologist. It's Ricky.
Yellow travel biscuit. Yellow travel biscuit. Does that mean you're gonna show up at my door unannounced?
I'm just going to do whatever you need me to do for this episode, That's what
All
I'm
right.
going to do. Yeah,
Comfort
welcome
food.
back. This is episode 3. How are we doing so far?
Pretty good. It's a 9 episode season, right?
Is
This
it
is
9? God damn it. I thought
is
it
it
was
nine
8.
or eight? Is
I
it
thought it
eight?
was 8. They're usually 8. I'm hoping for 8.
More than a fourth of the way there.
The editing job begs for this to be 8, just so you know. And let's, before I complain more about the editing, I'm just going to get our guest out here so that we can all you can all bask in my misery. He's Ricky and I, our dungeon master for Dungeons and Dragons. He's actually quite a huge Star Wars nerd as well. He knows a lot about Star Wars, so I'm pretty happy to have him here tonight. Uh, Welcome, Brian.
Yay! Hey guys.
What's
Uh,
up, Brian?
Two things.
Welcome on
Is it
in.
is it all right if I'm still here if this is not my favorite Star Wars show?
Yes.
As long as your favorite's Andor, yeah,
Yeah,
you're
it's
I
allowed.
don't
Andor.
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
know I don't know that if you watched the first episode of this show 2 weeks ago, but we had a long discussion about that, and there's a technicality, there's a big asterisk to it now. Um, Obviously, Andor is the most grown up. It's the most grown up Star Wars show ever, and it's
The
badass
sexy
for
Star
that,
Wars.
right? Andor is not sustainable. It's not. We all
Right.
know that it's going to come and go, and we'll always cherish it. But the point of the Mandalorian is to exist forever and to exist in a way that entertains not just you and I and Ricky,
Yeah.
but your children as well and stuff. And so this is going to be the Star Wars that is remembered for this generation and other generations to go, whether or not,
Right.
you know, and for that, I do appreciate everything it gives me because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Hopefully I don't have to keep explaining that to every guest every week,
No.
but
And I
Yeah,
was going to say
man.
the second thing was there was a question last week about the dark saber having a kyber crystal, and it does. So there you
yes,
go, Ricky.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I knew it did. I just knew that in my notes, Frank wanted to bitch about kyber crystals, and so I was just trying to get past that as fast as possible. I
That's what
like
makes a lightsaber, right? Like that.
Yeah.
The
yes,
It has
but
the
again,
personality,
the dark saber is not a lightsaber.
but
mm,
it does have a kyber crystal. So
I just like trolling you. um, Anyways, before I get further into talking with Brian, I do want to get all the formalities out of the way. One last introduction that always has to happen. We have our fabulous producer, Lindsay, bringing balance to the force behind the scenes. She's always giving me the notes, and she's always trying her best to keep those dogs silent. But if they're not, I
they're
will
taped up
try
in the
my
bathroom.
best to edit them in post. I will. I cut like 3 out of 4 dog barks out of last week's episode. It was pretty. I was pretty proud of myself. Pretty proud of myself. One of them was right when I was talking, and I was like, "Well, that's staying in
Well,
there."
he had an opinion against yours. That's why.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But yeah, Brian, before we get into this, you've never been on this show. You've been on
oh,
our other show, Den Excelsior, several times, and I think we're going to have you on later in the month to talk about Dungeons and Dragons because we're just doing whatever the hell we want on that show. Um,
yeah.
but for this show, I kind of like having everybody talk about their relationships to Star Wars. And so for the people who have been recurring guests, I've been asking them, what is your new relationship with Star Wars since the last time The Mandalorian came? But for you, I kind of want to just know your relationship in general, and then you can add the extra part if you want at the end.
Sure. I mean, as long as I can remember, I've been a Star Wars fan. The first movie I remember seeing in theaters was Empire. And I remember being scared out of my mind during the attack on Hoth, because I was 4 or 5 at the time, and that is legitimately scary to a 4 or 5 year old. And then went through the desert of content in the 80s. I'm one of those people who watched the like Ewoks cartoon and the other spin-off shows because that was all you got. Um,
You got books in there
There
too.
was an Ewoks live action miniseries with Wilford Brimley as well.
and it was not very good.
It's the
It's
diabetes kid,
not
right?
Yeah, I mean, I got into all
diabetes
the
kid.
expanded universe stuff, and read all of the Kevin J. Anderson books, which he kept repeating the same plot points over and over in every trilogy he wrote, and watched as the escalation of galaxy destroying weapons kept getting one upped, and thought, well, maybe it's a good thing when they scrap the old EU. At least we won't have planet killing super weapons anymore as every plot point. And
And then Force
I mean,
Awakened.
well, we did avoid it in the prequels. I'll give the prequels that. They did not just rehash
You
old
got
plot
trade
points.
disputes.
Yeah,
Trade
sure.
Federation disputes. Yes.
Yeah.
Diplomatic
And I'll say the
debates.
Clone Wars, of the newer stuff, of the stuff since like the mid '90s, I think the Clone Wars may be one of my favorite things that's come out of that, because it really did allow for a deepening and appreciation of the prequels.
Yeah. I really feel like the Clone Wars wasn't just that. It was just like it was George Lucas's vision like realized finally,
Yeah,
like because he had a great team of people to help him. Like, we've all seen like the behind the scenes of like the Phantom Menace, how like he was just surrounded by yes men, right?
yeah.
Like they just all said, yeah, this is great. This is great, and like I don't feel like that's what the Clone Wars was. I feel like that was an actual
No,
collaborative
it was
experience.
it's
Yeah,
by committee for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, and
George needs
and
an editor.
he does, and he's great when he does get
Yeah,
edited like hard. And so I think what's really awesome about the Clone Wars is he took it upon himself, or maybe Dave Filoni took it upon himself to make him his understudy in this whole grand saga. And so like it's really cool because when George finally stepped away from Star Wars and got billions of dollars or whatever, however much it was, um, it wasn't left we weren't left without a caretaker, right?
right.
Like Dave Filoni gets this shit. Whether or not we always like the choices Dave Filoni makes, I still I'm okay with it because I feel like this is in line with the kind of shit George Lucas did. You know what I mean?
Well,
So
what's fun is they're now Filoni has his people now, right?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
And it's fun to see the trickle down and how
But John Favreau is not a bad people to have in your corner.
no,
You know what I mean?
no,
Like
that's a great guy to have in your corner to get really
yeah.
cool people to play
but
with Star Wars.
I will say I think and we'll probably talk about this a little bit more, but Mandalorian is frustrating in some ways, having seen Rebels and having seen sort of the character development and the personalities that he was able to create there. I don't feel like it's really gelled yet in the Mandalorian.
Yeah, I think, well, yes, I won't disagree with you. I think The Mandalorian uh has a different pace that it's going for establishing character. I I think they have a much more limited amount of time, right? Every season
Yeah,
of Clone Wars was like, 24 episodes except for the last season, right? I think
It's like
uh
it's I
it's
don't say
just the
I feel like lowest common denominators sounds bad, but it needs to. It's the biggest pop, right, of all the shows. It's not as it's you get a lot of bang
no
and bang for your buck in that show in terms
um
of audience versus the other ones.
I think that's because it's nuanced though. I don't think it's as pop as you make it sound. I think there is a lot going on in the silence, right? There's a lot of silence in The Mandalorian where you're
hmm
just watching and experiencing stuff and you can interpret a lot from that silence. And I think that's what makes it really a piece of art, right? Like it's not just commercial, like, commercially acceptable media. Like it happens to be because it has all the flash and bang of Star Wars, but there's some really cool story that happens. It just doesn't happen at the speed that we would like it to because it took freaking 2.5 years to get another season.
Well, they
And
gave
so
you
you
Yeah.
get
Boba
a little more
Fett, right?
frustrated, like you get frustrated, kind of like Rick and Morty, right? Like it's frustrating how long we have to go between seasons of that, and I wish they would find the cadence to get that. And I know that show's on its own can of worms. I just, like,
Yeah,
like
you got to stop
See,
referencing that one.
I'm an old Venture Brothers fan, so that doesn't bother me as much. I think
I'm an old Venture Brothers fan too, and it
yeah,
does bother me because of that. Like,
well, so I think here's my Mandalorian conspiracy theory, and I don't think I've shared this. I think one of the things that hampers it is Disney's interference from time to time, and the fact that I think they keep them from telling some of the stuff like we saw with Andor, right? As soon as Grogu became the pop culture sensation, everything is sort of tailored around that aspect and that relationship. And I
but
think it
I think they knew he was going to be that though.
I don't think they thought it was going to hit
He
as
hit
much
pretty
as it
big.
did.
A baby Yoda. I mean, I think that was a like you could see that puppet and
Yeah,
know the
yeah.
magic,
Is it a
right?
safe bet? Sure, but
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a safest
is it
bet.
a
But I mean,
ringer that it's
that
been?
thing
I
is
don't think.
crazy. Like, I dropped my kid off at kindergarten, and I swear a quarter of any given day of parents are wearing the child or Mandalorian stuff. And these are like basic ass white people from Orange County. Like, these are not nerds.
Yeah, I
Your
mean,
soccer moms and
Yeah.
your tech bro
yes,
dads.
he's definitely part of the zeitgeist, right? Like he's definitely like everyone knows him. Like my aunt got me a Grogu shirt for Christmas, and she doesn't know what it is. She just got it for me because she knew it was Star Wars and that I would like it. And I thought that was funny. So yeah, I get that. I get that you're seeing your feeling is that Disney watches this one closely, and I don't think you're wrong in
and
that
I
sense.
think it makes the storytelling safer. Like one of the
Yes,
things I really appreciate about Rebels was as that series went on, legitimately any of the core characters could have been killed off, and
and they,
you
and they
know,
were and
yeah,
they were
right, and
yeah,
or horribly maimed. I don't
or
think that's
both, or both.
something. Yeah, yeah,
You're telling me Grogu's not dying
Actually, I
anytime
no,
think we're
soon?
thinking of the same character who got
yeah,
horribly
yeah,
maimed and then
yeah,
killed.
right,
But yes, no, I think Rebels, like anytime you're operating in a space like that, where it's like less eyes on you,
yeah,
there's obviously more freedom. But like, I don't think they were in any, I don't think they were a disillusioned to know that when they started making the first live action big budget Star Wars TV show ever, that there was going to be a lot more eyes on them than
yeah.
when they were making Clone Wars or Rebels and stuff.
Right,
So
but you can do that, have eyes on you, and still take risks. I mean, again,
Mhm.
Andor has sort of shown that with that big thing, but I think
yeah,
because of the demographic that Grogu has sort of drawn in, I think they're sort of erring more on the safe stuff. I hope I'm wrong. I hope we were talking about maybe this turns into like a full on cult weird.
well, no, I mean, I don't think it ever will. I think
Yeah,
I think the truth is you're right in a sense that it's not that it's no accident that they pulled in the demographic that they pull in, right?
yeah,
Like the reason I'm saying that this show will exist in pop culture way longer than Andor ever will is because it was specifically geared to target all the same people that all of the previous
It's
Star Wars movies
the
were,
California roll for
right?
someone who's never had sushi.
Yeah,
The safe bet.
Star Wars has always been meant to target an entire uh
Mhm.
cross section of
yeah,
Of
of
nerds.
families.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be family oriented. So while we geek out when we get a Rogue One or an Andor, we have to accept that those are the exceptions to the rule. You know what I mean? Like those aren't what we're gonna get all the time, and so we cherish them, but Star Wars is meant for everybody, and
Yeah,
that's
no,
that's
uh,
why Ricky and I do this show, is
yeah, and I'm
because
not
it's
trying
like,
to be gatekeepery here. I think it's odd that some of the plot lines that we know are likely coming, I'm a little bit worried that they're going to be toned down or made more
yeah,
family friendly.
like I said, I still always believe the armorer is the biggest villain of the show. I don't think she'll be revealed as the biggest villain of the show until the ratings have tanked on this show so far that nobody cares anymore, and it'll
Season
be like
4, it's already written.
season 18.
They'll
Season
do it. They'll
18.
do it in the next book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, it just won't happen until like people don't care, or somehow weirdly the show will get canceled before it ever gets to end, and then Dave Filoni on his deathbed will release like the final storyline, which was the armorer was gonna kill Mando, and
No, the
like I
armor
don't
is
know,
going to sacrifice Grogu to raise like an
a
army of
demon.
Mandalorian
Yeah,
Grogu's the
zombies.
new Mandalore.
yes, something like that. But in any case, like I think if anybody listening hasn't gotten the sense that Brian cares deeply about Star Wars, then I don't know what you were doing for the last 17
Hey
minutes.
man, Trek
Uh
for life. No.
yes. Well, you can like both though, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? I think
Not a
Star
comic
Trek
man.
is a lot better about putting out content. I think they put out content
They found a system that
pretty
works for them.
pretty vigorously. Whether or not it's all good content is debatable. But man, do they put out content, and I appreciate them for that.
I'm actually going to go the third way here and say I really wish we had a quality Stargate show out there right now too. That's sort of my oddball.
Where do you stand on Babylon 5?
I've never really been able to get into it.
You know,
It
I
was
was I
speaking a
was
foreign
like
language
that
to me.
because that was on TV back when you and I were that
Yeah.
age. I never got into it then, but I worked with so many people that insisted on it. And on top of that, J. Michael Straczynski is just one of my favorite
Yeah,
like
yeah.
comic book authors or writers. I finally dug down and I binged that show a few years ago. I think around pandemic time, beginning of it. It's pretty damn good, Brian.
I've
The
seen
video
it.
quality is bad. The acting is kind of bad. If you fulfill the story,
Oh yeah, no,
it's
the
pretty damn
story's
good.
good, but Babylon 5 is one of those things where it was sort of a one and done, and they didn't really try to expand out the universe. I mean, if we're
They
talking
did though.
sci-fi,
There's tons of movies and
yeah, yeah,
miniseries
but
and stuff like that.
I
Yeah.
mean, like your average TV watcher isn't getting novels and direct to video stuff
Oh,
and all
I see what
that.
you're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I'm just saying, give it a shot if you
yeah.
ever are really bored. Uh,
Babylon 5 is what I would when if I was watching the Sci-Fi Channel back in the day and I saw that on, instant click away.
You
No
switched over to
interest.
Andromeda.
Yep, switched over to something else.
That was the one with
anyways,
Kevin Sorbo, right?
I think so. Yeah. We're getting in the weeds, guys. We're
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
in the weeds. I'm gonna bring it back. Uh, we are here to talk about the newest episode of Mandalorian, episode 3. So I think we should probably just do that so that we can stop dancing around it. So the first thing I'm gonna say is for anybody who has been listening and has not watched the episode, we love you. You're great. Thank you so much for doing that. But probably turn this off, go watch the show, then come back because we're going to spoil it right now.
Yeah.
Cool. It's you. I promise you'll enjoy it more if you watch it then watch this. All right. With that said, you guys know what I like to do. I like to give a little elevator pitch. It's a little sassy sometimes, a little sassy elevator pitch. But just to really briefly describe what we just watched. Um, Here it is. This is the one that will lose every comparison to episode 3 of The Last of Us, but still works in the context of the Mando.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's funny. We had Frank on the show last week, and we did the soapbox afterwards, which is the show we usually do on Friday nights live, just to kind of do an after show of Den Excelsior or whatever we're doing on Friday nights. And it's just to blow off steam and talk about whatever. And he really wanted to talk about Last of Us with us on that one. And he's like, he's got a very strong passionate love for The Last of Us as a game. And so he's very conflicted about the TV show because he loves it and hates it at the same time. for everything wrong and in both ways. But he was funny because he referred to the episode 3 as, easily some of the best acting he's ever seen, period, writing, all that stuff. But at the same time, it really insulted him that it was a quote filler episode of The Last of Us. And I had an argument with him about I don't like the connotation of the term filler because it implies that it had nothing to do with the main story.
Right.
And I think even if it doesn't actually, even if it doesn't focus around the main characters, if it still thematically fits with the story, I think there's a hard argument to be made that it's a filler.
I see where you're going here and how it relates to this episode, and I would say, in response to that episode of Last of Us isn't. I wouldn't call it filler because it's world building,
Yeah.
right? It's filling out a world that has not really been all that well filled in yet. We'll see if this episode does this.
Yeah, it's all hindsight.
But it may
Right,
or may
right.
not. But I
But
don't know that Star Wars needs a world building episode.
but I did
at
say
this
it will
point.
lose every comparison to
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I mean,
I did say that,
as
but
someone who loves eclairs, I have no problem with filler. So
fair enough. Fair enough.
Uh,
All right. Well then, let's get into the actual spoilers of it all. I'm going to give the full recap of the episode as fast as I can for anybody that needs that refresher of what occurred. Here we go. First up, rattled by what she saw in the living waters, Bo-Katan politely rushes Din, Grogu, and R5 back to Kalevala to pick up their ship, only to be intercepted by a fleet of TIE interceptors. See what I did there?
I see.
They got to do the thing that they're named for. I was pretty happy about that. I was like, yo, they're actually intercepting. I
And the
never
other
see them
ones did
intercept.
too.
Yeah. Bo-Katan is forced to flee with Din after reinforcements show up and destroy her home. And then the rest of the episode does not follow them for a long time, but I'm going to summarize it in 2 sentences. Meanwhile, on Coruscant, a remorseful Dr. Pershing hopes to make amends via the the New Republic Alliance's amnesty program. Unfortunately for him, a former crewmate of his from Moff Gideon's ship, Elia Kane, sets him up to fail and have his mind wiped of all precious cloning secrets. And then back to the Mando and Bo-Katan. In the final scene, we rejoin them as they arrive at the covert, where Din and Bo are both welcomed into the fold after proving that they had bathed in the living waters and conveniently have not removed their helmets since.
they drank the Kool-Aid.
And yeah, I think Bo-Katan is at least playing along for now.
Yeah, so here's what I get. Here's my take on that.
We're gonna start there. We should start there.
Yeah.
I feel like it's two separate stories.
I think it's kind of a cool thing to start there. We'll call this we'll say that we're in the light side, dark side of this because I actually really loved that section of or that little ending of the episode because it really felt like
she's in a pickle, right?
Well, no,
The biggest of
she's going
pickles.
through some shit right now because she was the cynical, like, yeah, all right, whatever, man, mythosaur, blah. And all of a sudden,
She saw God.
she's
Yeah.
having a crisis of faith,
Yeah.
right? Because you got to remember, and by the way, this is the perfect time for somebody like the Armorer to latch on to somebody like this. This person, think about the context of where Bo-Katan is, right?
Yeah.
She was the leader of the Mandalorian people until Moff Gideon showed up, kicked her ass, and took her darksaber, right? Then she was leading a small band of Mandalorians who still believed in her, and they were going to go and find Moff Gideon, kick his ass, and get this sword back. Things went a little wrong when she tried to join up with the Mando, and they were going to do each their plan, right? But it didn't go according to plan because Moff Gideon expected her. So instead, he went, fought Mando. Mando got the sword. And now what's she supposed to do? She doesn't want to kill the guy whose mission was to save a kid, right? Like that's
Yeah.
not cool. It's not cool. So what she do when he tries so hard to give her that sword too. And she says, "No, bro, I'm not going to take the sword from you. But I can't have the sword if it's one unless it's one out of combat."
Well, and
So
she's clearly better attuned to it too, right? We've seen that
exactly.
repeatedly now.
Yeah.
She can rock that sword. We know she can. It's meant for her. But
She is meant to be the leader, but
here's the thing. She's not. And so
right.
what happens? All of the rest of her followers abandon her. And she just ends up moping around for who knows how many years, sitting on that throne in the coolest way ever, by the way. I've never seen somebody sit
Like
on a
2
throne this
years,
coolest
2
way.
or 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 or 3 years. Doesn't want to be bothered. I mean, she's got like basically a princess castle, right? Or a queen castle, whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it. She's got a pretty dope castle in Kalevala, but she's got no followers. And she's pretty bummed about this. So she's so bummed that this season Mando goes to visit her and she's not having it. She doesn't want anything to do with it, you know? But she's not a horrible person. So when Grogu comes to her door because he's clearly
Yeah.
his dad is injured, she goes to save him. And she insists, "Bro, you're so stupid. You're so stupid. I don't know why you got to go down in these mines. These mines are dumb. There's nothing there. The water's not sacred. There ain't no mythosaurs. None of this matters. It's all bullshit." And man, when she goes down in that water, her brain is just thrown for a loop.
Well,
So
but
can you
also
blame her?
let's
Can
not
you blame
forget
her?
that she had spent the previous time with Din talking and with Grogu basically remembering these traditions and
Yeah.
remembering her father and you
And
know,
oh man, the look she gave him when he said this is the way,
yeah.
right? That hit her hard in the fields, and she's like, "Bro, this guy gets it. My dad died defending Coruscant because that is the way." And yeah, all of
And
this has
being a
happened to her.
Mandalorian is being a hard ass son of a bitch, not the person who sits on a throne and mopes all the time. So
Yeah,
yeah.
But
and
I don't
then
know if
she
it's a
goes
complete
back.
180 though. Like, I mean,
No, but she's going through some shit,
yeah,
She's
right?
no,
going
yeah.
through some shit,
This is
You're
gonna
you're
be
processing what you just saw, and you're trying to rationalize it.
and so she hasn't had a second to rationalize it. I just want to point out she has not had a moment to herself to process all of this information. So much so that the person who's famous on this show for showing her damn Katie Sackhoff face didn't even have time to take her helmet off. She has not taken her
yeah.
helmet off since she pulled him out of the water, right? And because of that, she's wondering, is is this like is this happenstance, or is there more to it? Is it serendipitous, right?
Yeah.
Is there something happening here that is outside of my control and my reasoning? And that is why when she's presented with an entire covert of people that are willing to openly embrace her just because she bathed in the waters and forgot to take her helmet off, that's literally all she did, right?
Well, and
They're like, "You're one of
it's
us now, bro, as
it's also
long as you
worth
want."
remembering that Bo-Katan is one of probably a very small group of people who actually knew Force users and know about the Force and know that there's something out there that often guides things unseen. So
It's true. Like that's a really good point because like honestly, I think the context of Star Wars to us is we always see the stories with the Jedi, right? That's all we ever get. Like constantly I complain about it. But
Yeah,
in
but I mean,
reality,
we had this conversation with Travis like 2 years ago, right?
yeah,
yeah.
Like
Yeah,
it's
is that the reality is
Jedi are
most
boring.
people in the Star Wars universe think Jedi are a myth.
Yeah,
Think
right.
the Force is a myth,
but
you know?
specifically the Force. I
Yeah, the
know
Force be with you is like
I'm
saying
gonna say the
bless you
N
to
word.
somebody. You don't actually think you're blessing somebody.
Yeah.
Like the
But
Force to Jedi is this all encompassing energy thing,
Also,
you know,
Midichlorians.
well, it is
or
that
it's
also.
Midichlorians.
No, it can be both. It can be both,
Yeah,
Ricky.
but that's what I'm saying. Who it's in the eye of the beholder, and Bo-Katan is now presented with this dilemma on what side of the mythosaur coin she's going to land on. There's
Yeah.
obviously a big thing down there.
Yeah. Oh,
But
it's a freaking mythosaur.
Yeah.
There's no
is,
question about that.
yeah,
Even
yeah.
if it isn't, I mean, that's what she is interpreting it as. So
I
No.
loved how she tried to give Mando a chance to like confirm visual like confirmation, like, hey, you see anything down there? No. Cool. Yeah, me too. Let's go.
see, I
Let's go.
read that as she may be also thinking, because depending on how much of the old expanded universe stuff they bring over, the Mandalorians were also fairly mystic and were people who had visions. So, especially the royal family as the chosen ones, I'm wondering if maybe all this talk about her dead dad and the
Yeah.
way the planet used to be, that she's also like, am I going crazy?
But
There's
that's
just a
what
lot
I'm
of
saying. I
radiation on the
I
planet.
think I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
whether or not she actually turns out to believe any of this, she is at peak level of susceptibility for the armorer, right? And the armorer, oh man, how welcoming was that? She said, "This is the way. You're welcome to leave
I
anytime you
don't
Yeah.
want."
read that much into that. I
What?
think
You
it's too
didn't? Why are
it's
you
too
never reading that
No,
much
that's
into that?
that's
it's too
cult
I feel like it's
101,
too
man.
early. To your point, it's only been like 10 minutes, right?
That's exactly
So
how you do it
Yeah,
in
but
the
that's how
like
cults do it. Is they're
that's
like, you're
how.
welcome to come and go until you build those relationships, and
Yes.
I took that response at the end of that episode as like her riding the train, getting on the train to see where it leads, but not necessarily full. I don't think she's full on
But
trusting these people.
here
She's
So
just doing it because it's
that's
convenient
fine.
in that
She doesn't
moment.
have to,
so
but she
here's
will.
here's something I would like to see more. Like, we haven't spent a lot of time with the cult, right? I would like to get a better sense of who is, other than Din and the armorer and Paz, who else is joining this? Is it mostly younger impressionable kids,
Yeah,
or is it
probably.
older mercenary Mandos? And I think Bo-Katan has always been a character that's a pretty good BS detector.
But is
So
she though? Because as a
I think she
reminder,
is.
she followed Pox Vizsla for a long time.
Yeah,
I want
and
yeah,
to remind you, Bo-Katan was a bad guy when you
she
first meet her
was.
in Clone
But
but
Wars.
she was
that's
following him
why
because she wanted revenge, and and then
she learns her ways, and I don't know if she's going to be
Okay, I'm
successful to
not
make the
saying
same mistake again.
I'm not saying she's gonna become a bad guy. I'm saying though, you're gonna watch like the paint by numbers play of a cult.
yeah.
You're gonna watch every single step of the cult as they try to initiate her.
I hope so.
And I think well, yes, that's what I mean to say. I
Yeah,
hope we're gonna see that. But I feel like just what we got in those last few minutes of the episode was everything by the book. Everything was by
yeah,
the book
yeah.
of what a cult would do. So for me, that was the most exciting part of the episode, other than
The cult
the
stuff.
sweet ass dogfight at the beginning of
Yes.
the episode. Oh my god, that was so cool. Everything about it, it kind of reminded me of some of the better action sequences of Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
felt like it was above like so many Star
There was
Wars.
use
It
of
was very well
gravity and
choreographed.
atmosphere. And yeah,
He flips the
Yeah.
wing, does that crazy 180 turn.
Oh my
I mean,
goodness.
he
Mando does like a
jumps out
jetpack
and
drop.
basically base jumps down to the landing pad.
Oh my god, that was so cool. Like ah, I can't
Still, all right.
yeah.
Better or worse than the space fight scene in Andor with Luthen and his ship, because that was also
The Luthen
a
one was pretty
badass.
damn good,
Yeah.
but I felt like this one was so freaking niche though. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like I was watching things that I've never seen in Star Wars.
I feel
they're
like there was
And
a
getting better with the fight
weight to a lot of
scenes.
the ships or whatnots. But I also like they're making the TIE fighters a threat again. For the longest time they're kind of just like
Yeah,
fodder.
well,
But
those are
as soon as
interceptors.
I mean,
Interceptors are
yeah,
way
but
more dangerous
TIE
than
fighters
yeah.
TIE
in general
fighters.
have become more and more of a threat over the past
God, interceptors in the
shows.
old X-wing game. Fuck those
Yeah.
But
things.
to see like Mando
Yeah.
like see 10 pop up on his radar and is like, yo, Bo, we're done. Like, and
I
and
like
that
that.
being like
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's some real shit right there. It's not
That yeah.
gung ho take them all out, Chewie. It's like, oh no, we're gonna live. We gotta go.
It was
And
an
I enjoyed that.
excellent opening to the episode, and so much so that I actually thought when I misread the title of the episode, I thought the title was The Convert or The Covert, sorry, The Covert. And then it wasn't until the next scene started that I realized I think I misread the title of this episode. um, and when I read it back and I was like, "Oh, it's The Convert." Okay, I get it. Um, we should probably talk about this part of the episode.
All right.
Like, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I watched every episode of The Mandalorian always twice before I do the show. I also go and watch other things that help, refresh my memory of stuff. Uh, I don't want to tell you how much Mandalorian I watched today, but it was a lot. It was a lot of Mandalorian. This episode, the middle section of it that deals with Dr. Pershing and comms officer Elia Kane, who
Yes.
we,
Who
we
is
never we
ISB,
never
right?
had. What's up?
I mean, she's clearly ISB, right? Or former.
She didn't talk in Mando season 2, did she?
She did talk
She did.
in every scene she ever was in Mando. Uh, Turns out she's actually really the only person that ever talks to Gideon outside of Din. Uh, she is kind of that's her role. She's the direct report to Moff Gideon. She's in
Communications officer.
four episodes of the Mandalorian season 2. And she's actually in the finale of the season along with Dr. Pershing. That's where he gets his ear shot by Cara Dune.
Right.
It was a really cool scene to rewatch that again. I kind of forgot what it was. But the thing with her that I thought was really funny, the first time I saw this episode yesterday, it made me remember Frank, because Frank actually was the one who did our first show that had uh, this comms officer in it. And he got really excited, and we both did, because back then I used to look up every single person who played anything, because they were usually somebody that was more, like it
Yeah.
was like the two guys in the last episode of season 2 that are piloting Dr. Pershing. They're actually famous voice characters from the Clone Wars and Rebels shows and stuff so it was always fun to look that up. So when I saw this comms officer that had lines, in I think episode 12 or chapter 12, I was like, who is this? And I looked her up, and Frank also was really excited because Katie O'Brien
Yeah.
plays Elia Kane. She is from this show that Frank was really excited about called Z Nation, and she's actually a martial artist. She's a buff lady, man. She's pretty big. And you and I have recently seen her in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Mhm.
She had a bigger role. I couldn't tell you her name because I didn't give a crap about that character.
Quantum alien.
She's the leader of the Rebel Alliance against Darth
Janora or
Kang.
something like that.
I don't know. I hated that it was just a Star Wars ripoff, that movie. In any case, Frank and I thought it was weird that this person who is like a main character in this other TV show was down to clown and she had like one line pretty much in each episode of The Mandalorian that she's in. She would basically just go say, Moff Gideon, blah, blah, blah. And then he would just ham it
I
up.
think I wouldn't be. There's a lot of people who are down to clown
He
with
would
a
ham it up.
Star Wars
But
cameo.
it felt
cameo.
weird. It felt weird, right? And this felt like the justification for all of that, right? Is that, okay, there was plans for this character. And that's really cool. Like, I really dug that. And so I was having a really fun time watching this first episode with her, or I mean, this new episode with her the first time, because I was like, yeah, this is the character that we kept wondering, what's her deal? What's her deal? Like, we never see her die when they raid the ship at the end and save Grogu and all that, or get the light dark saber and all that stuff. So we're like, what's going on with her? And I really enjoyed having that feeling again in this episode, which is like, what is going on here? And so me watching this show yesterday, I was having a blast. Me rewatching the show today, I was just like, can we be done with this part? Can we be done with this part? And that's the problem with that storyline, right? Is it's a one trick pony, and once you know it, you kind of can't help but feel gross about it the second time you watch it.
It
I mean,
also
not
depends on
all.
where they go with it, right? Like I said, I don't. It may end up being useful and important, right? But it depends on where it's going.
Well, it's definitely important. So I mean, are we throwing out theories?
Yeah,
I
I got
think
because I
she
got a
was.
crazy ass one. So
I mean, the show was not subtle. They do mention Moff Gideon, right?
Yeah.
Like several times, and they also mention conflicting reports that are different from what the reports we got in the first episode of the season were about what happened to Moff Gideon. Now it's possible that Moff Gideon either got away from his incarceration or he got mind flayed. We like
yeah,
it's so up in the air, like people don't even know. I don't think it's a coincidence that that was mentioned in the same episode, that his literal right hand person from the second season was doing the job of setting this guy who has incredibly valuable knowledge, and as far as we could tell was making Snoke clones, right?
yeah,
That's what we
yeah.
theorized last time around, right? Is that
Yeah. No, he
he's
was making snow
he's
clones.
He's making
he's making
Palpatines.
the thing
He's
that's
making
going to lead
Palpatines.
Yeah,
to, he's either making Snokes or Palpatines, and the idea was
He's
they're
like really
tying
into
this into the,
yeah,
eugenics. Like,
yeah.
well, I mean, he's definitely doing eugenics. That's not even
That he
questionable. Like
described it
he
exactly.
literally
We're making
described
the best
eugenics to a
beings from
T.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So
Um,
who uh who is Kane working for then?
I
What do
think
you
she's
think?
working for Gideon.
I think she's working for
I,
Thrawn.
For what?
yeah,
Thrawn. We
Thrawn.
know Thrawn is coming.
Thrawn's out
Thrawn
there.
is smart and resourceful and would absolutely use the best people of his. And if she did what she did to Pershing to Gideon, if she's the one who mind flayed him, then Thrawn could have set her basically cleaning up those things and getting what's useful. But I think she is the way that we get the build up to Ahsoka and Thrawn, because we know that's come.
Um,
And if
That'd be a
not,
nice
I'm a
hook.
little bit worried, because why are we bringing Gideon back when we know we're also getting this other stuff?
but are we
Well,
getting Thrawn as a villain for the Mando is the question.
I think
No,
you are.
and that's the
Well,
other thing is this had the feel of a little bit of a backdoor pilot, which they've done before, and if that's what it is, then I'm going to be pissed.
there is. It came out for I think it was a Vanity Fair, but there is a Mando and Friends Super Show on
Yeah, they're
deck.
doing the
I
crossover.
I did say
Sometime
they were going to do an
after.
Avengers. I did say it.
So if you're planting the seeds for like, in my mind, I'm with you, Brian. Thrawn's the big bad in that, and you bring back everybody, you bring back the rebels people, and you do one big, beat 'em up. But
Well,
if
and
you're
then they've
planting
cast
those,
all those roles already, right?
yeah.
They've got a Sabine, they've got an Ezra.
So
Yeah. Sure. Like I think that's cool. I think it's about as cool as Luke Skywalker saving Mando and his badass crew when they didn't when they earned the right to save themselves.
mm,
I think
But
it's
but
I
my
think it's
point is why would you have both a Gideon and a Thrawn? Right? I think it
right,
would
and
be
that's
too
what I'm saying.
confusing.
I'd rather have a Gideon because a Gideon is the established actual villain
Really? I'd rather
of
have a
Mando.
Thrawn, because Thrawn, when written well, is so much more of an
I
interesting
think the Star
character.
Wars people would rather have a Thrawn.
No,
Yeah.
I think the Star Wars people would rather have a Thrawn, and that's why I believe you're right. But I'm saying I would rather have a Gideon because I like Giancarlo Esposito,
Yeah.
and I like what he does with the role. Like I said, I watched a crap ton of Mandalorian today. I watched every episode that Gideon was in from season 2, to at least the scenes with Gideon in it, and I was like, damn, I forgot how good this guy is at just
Yeah.
being a super mustache twirler. He's so mustache twirly. I love him for that. I love him because that's why I want to believe the armor is the big villain, because he's such the obvious villain. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and you got to have a subtle one too. And so like I feel like having Thrawn is just another obvious villain. You know what I mean? Like it's not Thrawn. There's no subtlety to Thrawn
There is
either.
subtlety to Thrawn, though.
He looks evil the second you see the
Yeah,
guy.
he look, but
I
that's
mean,
the whole point. Is he
that's
looks
kind of
like a
racist.
demon,
Yeah,
but
That's
he
it is,
is
and he looks evil the same way Cad
extremely
Bane looks evil the
pragmatic.
second
And
you
if
see
he,
Cad Bane.
yeah, but if he hadn't been,
He looks like a cowboy.
loyal, then
He
he
looks
would
like an
have
evil
probably
cowboy.
joined the Republic in the, but yeah,
Hmm.
he's
It's
not just
fine. I'm
he's
not,
not just like evil for evil's sake, right?
but he's not evil for evil's sake.
I mean,
He's yeah,
He comes,
he's Machiavellian, right? He is
yes, that generally is considered to be evil.
right, but he's
But
not like I'm gonna murder these puppies just because.
look, I'm agreeing with you. You guys are
Yeah,
probably right.
he's
And
I mean, if you're going by Brian's theory, he murdered the eugenics guy.
like this
That's a
show,
pretty
well, he
big.
didn't
That's a
murder
pretty.
him.
yeah, but
He didn't get murdered. That
He
guy
took
didn't get
out the
murdered.
eugenics guy.
yeah,
Yes.
yes,
But
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 not
that's
before getting an inventory of everything he needs to restart the cloning work.
correct.
true. But to that point, that's what I really liked about this episode was they're really getting into the flaws of the New Republic. You know, the grit, the rust.
I think
The
this show, yeah, I think this show is doing the things that Andor and Rogue One and I will say it, I know it's an unpopular opinion, The Last Jedi did, which is all three of those stories actually t- touched on the ugly truths of war, right? Because
yeah,
like war in previous Star Wars was just like you blew up the Death Star and now everybody's
whoa,
happy.
what?
You
Yay!
can add
Yeah, yeah.
Solo to that too.
Sure, sure. But like the reality is like, what do we see in this? We saw the rich always win.
Yep.
Like they don't even care which side
Yeah.
they're on as long as they're winning, right? Uh you give amnesty to those who are of value even if they're Nazis, right? And that's true.
And
That's
that has
fully
precedent in
true.
history. Let's be
Yep. That's
real.
the
That's
Operation
actual
Paperclip.
history. And the whoever's the new people in charge, they become the lawmakers and they make arbitrary laws. They might sound like they make sense to some people, but to other people they just don't make sense, and you just have to accept new laws, new people, new government comes with new laws, and you just don't get to know. And I feel like the Coruscant Accords was a cool like little explanation for why. Oh no, you're not allowed to practice cloning. I'm like, I mean,
Even to save your mom. Yeah.
yeah, right? Like that's you're really splitting hairs here. Like there's so many other shady things you guys have done, and but like you're gonna draw the line at cloning, like I don't know, dude.
And can we also appreciate the Mon Calamari medical guy who I did it to myself. It was quite nice.
Yeah, I think they made it. It's a trap reference
They
to one of the
did.
Mon
He
Cal
yelled
did.
it's a
They
earlier.
trap
did.
at him, and the Mon Cal just looked at him like, "The hell are you talking about?"
Yes, yes, that was pretty funny. But yeah, no, were you gonna say more on the subject, Ricky, about like the ugliness of the war stuff, like and how?
Yeah, I mean, I to your point, I think it does the same things that Andor does, with just highlight the nuances of it. It's one thing to say like, oh, the rebellion's not okay either, but they really get into it like why are we destroying all these files that could help people? That's what we gotta do. You just gotta do it, and you really start seeing the cracks. And I think in terms of good storytelling, it makes sense, right? It's oh yeah, I think I kind of agree with him. Like yeah, we shouldn't destroy those archives on how to save these things, or we shouldn't practice, or maybe we should practice cloning to get organs or whatnots. And it they're playing with that gray area in a way that I enjoy.
Yeah,
Um,
Yeah.
I think we're all in agreement. I think when I was checking our notes, we were all in agreement that that was the coolest part of this episode, besides the dogfight and Bo-Katan. I don't think
And
I
I
don't think
just
we're
had a
disagreeing.
midichlorian thought for later too, so
Okay, save it for later.
I will.
Save it for later. Um, I will. I do have some dumb stuff that I want to talk about, like because this is light side, dark side, and sometimes there are dark side moments, things that kind of rub me the wrong way, and I do want to get them out there because, like I said earlier, like or maybe I didn't say that while we were recording, but um, do I think this episode was good? Yes. Do I think it was as good as I wanted it to be? No. And here's a few reasons. Well, here's one reason, but a few examples rather. There was some dumb logic in this episode, guys. Like there was some dumbitudes, man. It was hurting me.
What?
First off, I was willing to accept the plot convenience of Bo just forgetting to ever take her helmet off. Like it's a stretch. It's a stretch considering how often we saw Katie Sackhoff's face in
Yeah.
every episode of the Mando she's ever been in until this one. It just didn't make sense. Like she even made a joke about it. She's like, I'd offer you dinner, but I'm pretty sure you're not gonna take that helmet off. Like why did you not take the helmet off, Bo? I don't but fine. Okay, that's one. I was willing to let the one go, right? It's just one. It's one matter of plot convenience. Okay, fine, right? Dude, how did Dr. Pershing get as far as he did with comms officer Elia Kane? And by far, I mean 41 minutes into the episode before ever knowing her name.
That seemed
What?
like it was a post hoc edit. We're like, oh shit.
Well, he knew her number, right?
Dude, they're not
Also,
numbers, they're
why are they
names.
referring
But
to each
they're
other by
She
numbers?
knew his name.
well, she knew his name and what he did. I think that's why you do the numbers to keep
But I mean,
some
to your
an
point, Ricky,
enemy or
about the New Republic being just as sketchy as the Empire, making people refer to themselves as numbers, that's
It's
never
dumb.
something a good
It's
government does.
yeah, no, it's dumb.
I mean,
It's
they're,
dumb.
they're former Nazis, or I mean,
No, the New Republic are not former Nazis. That's what I'm saying.
no, but they're giving the former Nazis numbers. I'm not.
Yeah,
That's
but
not good.
that's not
Not a
good.
good look either. That's a horrible look,
It's
Ricky.
all.
That's that. It just come on, guys. It made no freaking sense that she
No.
was introducing herself to him when they're already on the Star Destroyer. That just it hurt
I
my
thought
brain.
it was on the train. Was it on the Star Destroyer?
No, it's
It
on
was
the
on the thing, yeah, the destroyer.
yeah, it's on the Star Destroyer.
That's right. The train was mostly Pershing being uncomfortable around aliens.
Yeah, sure, because of his eugenics background, for sure. And then there was one last one that just really hurt me too. Okay, look, if you're the guy in charge of mind flaying,
It's not a
and
mind
you're
flayer.
and you're hanging out in the mind flaying control room, and then you turn the dial and you set it to medium or low, whatever, and then you say, "Hey, I'm gonna get out of here. You
Yeah.
want to go? You want to go?" She's like, "No,
Yeah, they put on a
I
reheat.
kind of want to stay."
I want to
I
hang
think
out in the MRI room.
I think what happens then
Mind
is
flare,
the
pervert.
guy in charge of mind flaying should say, "All right, fine, I'll stay too, because it's my freaking job." You do not leave a person unattended while getting their mind erased. That just seems like the most like they're not even a droid. They don't even have a droid to supervise that. They have a droid for everything. It's like the Flintstones on this freaking universe with the droids. Like every single
The
droid.
Jetsons?
No, the Flintstones is what I'm saying. Like every freaking like menial task ever is a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Like in that show. The Jetsons just have like a robot, like they don't have like a bunch of them.
And assembly lines. Yeah.
Yeah, and assembly lines.
So speaking of the droid, what the hell was that thing?
You mean the ticket taker?
No. The taxi droid.
Oh,
What?
I don't know.
What? Are we meant to intuit that the droids in the Star Wars universe go to museums and botanical gardens in
I
their
think
off
it's like
time?
a tour guide droid. There's,
we've already.
Yeah, but he was like, I personally enjoy. Like,
you're
yeah,
the
it's like,
one who brought up
it's comforting.
Solo, and I don't like to
comforting.
talk about Solo because it makes things really uncomfortable with my
Yes.
understanding of droids.
When are we going to get our droid uprising Star Wars? Because
Dude.
how much longer can they dance around the issue with droids, which is they're sentient, they
Well,
can feel pain.
We've danced around it for as long as Han Solo took to get as old as Harrison Ford, which is a damn long time. So post New Order or First Order is what I'm saying. You're not getting your uprising in Mando. You get it later, apparently.
Yep.
So for me, those three things just compounded the dumbness of and the contrivances that were required for the story to play out. And I was just like, guys, this could have been a little smarter. Like I don't know.
I,
I,
I
I
don't
would have liked
ding
to
Mando
see.
for that because it's always been kind of a classy steakhouse version of the 1980s action hamburger, right?
The action
It's meant
hamburger.
to be cheap. I mean, look at the
What a
dank
mixing of
ferric.
metaphors
It's
there.
not. Yeah, it's just it's a one and done, right?
I've scugged off a bunch of Imperials in my time. I mean,
You just it's the McRib. You enjoy it while it's here.
You
You don't
say
go back.
everything's
You
the
don't go
McRib,
back for a
Ricky.
second.
You
You
literally
don't go
say
back for a
everything's
second
the
one.
McRib. How many
But
episodes
the
of Den
the
Excelsior have
first
you
bites of a McRib are pretty good
Ricky, you know what
because
happens?
that's my analogy. The
I
McRib's
feel
like
like
the
all your analogies tell me something very truthful about you. Bro, you're hungry and you need to eat before you record the show with me.
I
but not
Last week
McRibs.
was
there's no
all
McRibs
about the
available
peanut.
here.
Last week was the peanut butter. You're just
Yeah.
like, I need some peanut butter bad. I bet you ate peanut butter right after the show too.
No peanut butter. I wish.
Okay, it's fine. I just had to get it out of the way, guys. I just had to like
Yeah,
put that out there. You can defend it all you want, whatever. It just for
I'm not
me,
defending it. I'm just saying this show has always been a bit of a shaggy dog show when it comes to some of these things. And you know, it benefits it sometimes because then you can just throw a character like Cara Dune in a single line. And
Yeah,
people are
just
like,
Yeah.
yeah, all right.
gotta play a little loosey goosey sometimes to
Fair enough, but I
get to
didn't feel the logic of throwing away Cara Dune was badly written. I
Yeah.
just thought it was a necessary evil.
I mean,
Could
if
they
the
have
real
made it
life stuff
funnier?
with
Yeah.
with the real life stuff with her, had they just written her off for that reason, and that was the line, you'd be pretty upset.
Yes, had they written off if they written off for no reason, but like I said, I watched a ton of Mando today, and oh my god, rewatching it, the fire in my heart was reignited for Cara Dune, and it makes me so sad.
Man.
It makes me so sad that we don't have that character because she is so badass on this show, and it was just killing me watching her be so cool in the second season, and knowing that she had to be written off because of stuff that happened outside of this show.
I'm wondering if Katie Sackhoff isn't getting some of her plot lines or interactions now as
I think they're
Bo-Katan.
I think their plans they had very specific plans for Katie Sackhoff in general anyways.
Yeah.
They didn't have to run into Cara Dune's. I think Cara Dune was supposed to get her own show is what
Yeah,
was going to
the
happen.
Rangers of the New
Yeah.
Republic.
Yeah. But I think Katie Sackhoff belongs on the Mandalorian as much as Din Djarin does.
Yeah.
So like
I
I
mean,
would
she
even
is a
be okay
Mandalorian.
with Din dying one day so that Katie Sackhoff can just continue the show. Because let's be real, she's the better Mandalorian than him. Like
She's also a more interesting character right now.
she is. She is a more interesting character. That's kind of my other problem with this episode, right? Is so he bathed in the waters. Mission complete for the season? Like what is
Man,
his point now? What is
they're
his
burning through
objective?
plot like
He's gonna
crazy.
start a holy war. That's
Again, against whom? There's like
against the non-believers.
which is who in this case? Most of the
Do you-
Mandalorians are dead.
I just wanna
I saw a trailer and there was like at least 10 of them.
Do you really believe that he's going to start a holy war, Ricky?
I think there will be a holy war in this season. Well, he
I
started.
don't think Mando starts it. Paz Vizsla is my money for guy that makes a real bad decision in an upcoming episode.
Legit. Do you know how? Okay, by the way, I'm gonna get back on the awesome train of this show. Do you know how hilariously cool it is that like you can just look at a Mandalorian who's completely covered and know they're pissed off? Like when the armorer says, "Nah, yeah, you bathed in the waters, you didn't take your helmet off, you both are in, you're good to
Fine.
go," and everybody's cheering, and then the camera deliberately cuts to Paz Vizsla, just giving this look behind the helmet. It's just like these bitches, you know what I mean? Like, oh my god, I just love seeing the anger come through the armor. It's so hilarious. It cracks me up. Paz Vizsla is going to lead your uprising for sure. He
Yes.
is. He
I
is not
hope he
having it.
gets it good by the end of the season.
I
He's gonna
hope
get
he
eaten by the
bullshit
mythosaur.
and kill the armorer, and then I'm robbed of my supervillain. You know what I mean? Like that's
No, I like Ricky. I think he gets eaten by a mythosaur. That would
I
that would
be.
be
saw a
sick.
theory about the armor who she was the Darth Maul Mando lady.
She could be.
Oh, Asajj Ventress.
No,
Oh,
no,
There's actual when
Darth
Darth
Maul.
Maul, because as a reminder in the Clone Wars, which gets
yeah,
bonkers, Darth Maul actually took over the Mandalorians.
right.
Um, was it in the Clone Wars or was it in Rebels?
It
It
was
was
in the
Clone
Clone
Wars.
Wars.
Yeah.
Remember,
It
he
was.
was dead in Rebels, and he came back.
No, yeah, he's alive in Rebels.
Right.
Like,
But he was assumed dead,
but
and
Yeah.
they
he
found him on the
dies in
trash
But
planet.
he's in
Remember?
several seasons of Rebels.
Yeah. But
Maul Mandalorians are in Clone Wars. That's for sure.
But so yeah. So when he takes over the Mandalorian people, they actually adopt like a look that's kind of like an homage to the Zabrak alien race. So they have Mandalorian armor with the spikes on their helmets and stuff like that. And there is a woman, if I remember correctly, that is
Like the second in command or
like the
something
second
like
in
that.
command. Yeah, something like that. That'd be interesting. I don't see it. I don't see it
yeah.
though. Yeah, but who knows? Filoni wants to tie everything to everything. So like basically every time I say nah, dog, they do it. They do it. So
Yeah,
I'm
it's
you know
Is that
the
why you're
brand
afraid Thrawn's
synergy, the
coming?
show.
that's why I think you're right, and I think Thrawn will be in the show because I don't want it, and
And then
so
2 weeks
it's gonna
later,
happen.
Thrawn will be at
It's gonna
Disneyland. You
happen.
can take a picture with him, and you know,
Hey
it's
man, we
got
had
to
this
keep the machine
argument.
going.
We
He's
had this
just gonna
argument
show up as Giancarlo Esposito in blue paint with red
2 years
contact
ago.
lenses.
We
They're
had
gonna
this
Red Skull
argument.
him. He's really the Thrawn.
We when we sat there with Travis and he's like, "Who do you think's gonna come to answer the call from Grogu?" He's
Uh,
like, "I think it's gonna be Luke," and I'm like, "That's stupid." I was like, "It should not be Luke." He's like, "Who else is it gonna be?" And I'm like, "Anybody else, anybody." And
It
there I
could only have
was.
been Luke. It could only have been him.
It could not only have been Luke. I
yeah,
listed
there's a
plenty of
lot of
people.
people it could have been.
Yes, it could have been a lot of people. They wanted it to be Luke. And that's fine. I get it. I understand the train that we're on and I'm riding it, so I'm not going to complain too much, but you got to let me have my moments every now and then where I do. Do you guys have any other big ticket items that we should talk about or do you want to get into the midichlorians?
What give me the 2 sentence plot of next episode.
Oh, man, I'm damned if I know, dude. Like I guess it's like
A day in the
let
life of Grief Karga.
I think it's a day in the life of a cult member. I
It's a
think that's what
stealth Boba Fett
Maybe we'll
episode.
find
I
that
would like it.
IG-11 chip.
I would like it to be an all cult episode, just where you really get to see how nutballs these guys are.
From Bo-Katan's perspective, and she's just like, "What the fuck?" Yeah,
I would like
I'd be down
Bo-Katan
for
to
that.
actually like ask somebody. So how do we eat? Like I want her to ask that
They take
question.
off their masks. They lift up
Yes,
their helmet.
we know that, but she is legit concerned about how you're supposed to eat with the mask on. That's what I'm thinking.
they hand her a
Uh,
straw.
yeah, seriously. Yeah, I think probably a cult episode, but because I don't think we'll do another interlude right now.
Oh, God, I
But
hope
I
not.
will tell you, we're getting damn close to needing a Bill Burr on this show. That's gonna
Is
save
he
it,
in the season?
No, but
bro. If he's not in this season, what are we doing? What are we
or
doing here,
another guest star of the same. Yeah,
I feel like he'll pop up in the other thing,
bro?
the Skeleton Crew, whatever that show
He
is.
is one of Mando's guys, dude. I don't want a season of Mando that doesn't have Bill Burr.
I mean, if I'm fighting a holy war, I gotta get Bill Burr. So
I want your holy war to be a thing so bad now, just because it sounds so ridiculous. But sure,
it is right. Like, who would have thought when Mando season 3 or from Mando season 1, like they're gonna get into some cold shit in by season 3.
I mean, I thought they were gonna get into some cult shit.
I
That's
think
what
that's really cool, though. I mean, remember
I've been saying that for years.
that's
I
why
don't
we
think
did
they
this
get too deep
show.
into the cult shit just because, that has some weird stuff for the fan base that loves Grogu. Now Grogu's in this cult. that's real
See,
creepy.
that's where my mind's going on. Where does Grogu fit in all this? Like,
I
I
think
can.
I think that he does not take down this cult before Grogu gets a helmet. I want to see that kid in a Mando helmet. I need to see
with a
it.
jetpack.
Yes, maybe
the way I
maybe not
see
jetpack.
it is Grogu's gonna calm the mythosaur, and then
Maybe.
Amanda will ride it, right? Calm it down with the
Probably,
force.
but that's not next week. That's not next
No.
week.
No, it's end of season. He's gonna talk though.
He's getting
Grogu-
close.
Grogu knows what went down. By the way,
Maybe. What's
He-
up?
Grogu definitely knows what went down.
With the mythosaur?
Yes.
Oh yeah, he
When
absolutely
they were
sensed
in the
that
ship
thing.
and Grogu like says like that little sentence, and they look at him. That was all about it. You don't remember that?
I didn't realize he said something.
He
babbled.
he babbled, but for like a good 3-4 seconds.
You know what would be awesome is like if we ever got the comedic episode where it's just it's a clip show of every time he ever babbled, but it's translated. That would be amazing. And it just adds all this new context to the shows that we never had before. Like he's like legit answering everything that every question they ever have in the moment. And even beyond
Unbeknownst
that.
to them,
Yeah.
Palpatine's spirit has been inhabiting him for the last season and a half.
Nice. All right.
The mythosaur is nothing
I think-
besides the dark side.
I think now that we're getting weird, it's time for the midichlorians. It's time. It's time for that section of the show. You know, it's where we talk about the small stuff that has no impact on anything whatsoever. But for some reason, some people still think it's cool. Looking at you, Ricky. I actually have a boatload of midichlorians for this episode, but I kind of want to let you guys go first. I want to hear what you guys got on your list. Brian, what you got?
I mean, I was going to talk about the weird stuff with the droids.
The ticket droids?
Not the the cab droid, but just the idea that Star Wars droids continue to get stranger and have these inner lives that
there
are.
was a droid with autism in Andor. I'm beyond.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm beyond thinking they can get any weirder than that. All right, like that's like that was a whole new level of droid, and I loved him. I loved
Yeah.
him. He was excellent.
But for
was
how much
excellent.
longer can we do the droids are cute little things that are completely owned property?
Apparently, we can do it forever. Apparently, we can.
outside of the one character in Solo.
Yes.
You can
What
tackle
about you, Rick? What about you,
one
Ricky?
social issue, a season. So the droids are coming.
What's a weird, meaningless thing that you enjoyed in this episode?
I kind of like the Coruscant mountain peak monument. I thought that was kind of cute, right? The whole. I do think it's weird that they refer to Coruscant as a city, though. Like Coruscant's a planet,
but it's a citywide or planet-wide city.
It's a planet city. It's a planet
Pershing
city.
is listening to a thing that explains that at one point.
It is both. It's a planet and a city.
Okay.
It's like if New York covered the whole planet.
Yeah, I know it's that. But I did think it was cute that they have like a little
for several thousand feet up.
For like this is the one piece of ground we got here.
And then she tried to get him to touch it, which was pretty good too.
I think that's pretty interesting that you brought that up and not the glowing popsicles.
Well, it's in space. Space is they got weird shit in space.
Here's my question. The hot burning question. Is it the stick that's glowing or the contents of the popsicle? And if it's the contents, does that mean when they eat it, their bellies are glowing on the inside?
And how long does the glow last?
Yes. And does that mean their poop glows? That's the real question.
This is where we're going next episode.
Yes. We're going to get an entire episode.
Coruscant sewage and...
And you know what's messed up is if their poop does glow, Dr. Pershing is not going to have any memory of eating glowing shit. So he's just going to be like, what's wrong? I need to get to the doctor now.
Well, I'm pretty sure his mind is gone now.
They overcooked him.
Yeah. He's over hard, right? Okay. Any others you got? Because I got a list of them here.
I mean, I think there's a lot of old EU Easter eggs thrown into all the Coruscant stuff.
You mean like Tongs days, am I right?
Oh Jesus! Yeah. The fact that they're like, we're gonna make the 5-day Star Wars calendar.
You know what I thought was really funny about the Tongs Days episode is last week Frank and I got into a really weird rabbit hole of arguing about the canon of the Mandalore the Great, or the first
Right.
Mandalore. And I mentioned, or maybe in the soapbox, because I didn't get, I had to cut that conversation off because it was going to go forever. But the old Star Wars EU canon is he was from a race of Tong.
Right.
That's actually the race of the first Mandalorian guy. So I thought that was funny that they make a tiny little reference to that in Tong's days. Am I right? It's pretty funny.
And what was the other one? Bindu's Day, which is that thing from Rebels.
That's
Like,
the festival, right?
no, that's Boonta Eve. There's also Bindu's Day, but Bindu is the big force sensitive creature.
Oh yeah. Did they say Bindu in the
I think
what?
so. That's what my subtitle said.
Huh. Okay. That's pretty funny. I like that. It's on the topic of droids. Can we talk about these droid train guys, the ticket takers? Oh my god, dude. I kind of
Just doing
loved
their
them.
job. Yeah.
I kind of loved them, except
I
for the
wish we had
fact
them
that
on
they
all the
walk
public
like
transit.
I didn't like that they walk like Michael Myers in Halloween, man. It's like
I mean, they were more Terminator-esque, but
Yeah.
I mean, sure, either or. 6 of 1. They were funny because like I did they call the cops, or was it Elia Kane that called the cops?
Oh no,
Or
she totally set him up.
because he definitely dialed some buttons on his chest when he was following these people. So what happened? I don't know. I don't understand. I feel like can the next episode be the droid ticket taker guy goes home and we see
you should
his
read
day?
from a certain point of view because all this shit is like right up your alley. Have you read
Yeah.
that, Brian?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. This is you need to get on that.
I
You'll
can't wait for
like
them
the
to have
one-off
some new
stories.
ones. When we get
All
some
right.
real weird POV. I'm Babu Frick.
Anything else? Any other weird stuff? I do like the one about the mountain peak. That was pretty funny.
I mean, basically all the stuff the droid cab driver did mention were like old expanded universe deep cuts. Like creatures from like the Star Wars Galaxy game.
Yeah. That was a good game. I like that game. I do like any opportunity they get. They do try to bring EU back into canon in small ways. You know, they're trying to keep it contained, right? Because I think that's the problem. Is like it got way out of control. Like because George Lucas signed off on too much stuff back in the day, and so people have like fond memories of certain stories, but then other ones are just like, I never read that. I honestly, I've always stayed away from it. I just tried really hard to stay away from the EU because for me, if it
I
wasn't
was
in the
always EU
movie,
adjacent. I used to have my friends tell me the stories.
I
yeah,
mean,
for me, if it wasn't the movies or the shows, it didn't count.
it was 90% garbage and 10% great, and I think Filoni has done a pretty good job sort of lifting the better stuff out, like the Night Sisters, or we'll
And
see
Thrawn,
how Thrawn translates.
I liked Thrawn in Rebels. He was cool in Rebels.
Yeah.
I do to the Galaxy point though. I do enjoy how the games are not excluded from that. They do pick and pull from the games,
Oh yeah,
whether it
for
be just
sure.
one-off characters that you just fought or story beats.
Yeah,
It's kind of nice.
yeah. All right. I think we're gonna wrap this up soon. This has been an absolute blast. But I gotta know before we go, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being, you know, Luke showing up to save a bunch of people that didn't need saving, and 10 being episode 3 of The Last of Us. Uh, where do you put this episode on your scale? Brian, you want to go first?
TBD. I think it's impossible. Like
Taking a reservation.
all the stuff with Din and Bo-Katan, looks like it's setting up something good, but the interlude in the middle with Pershing, we have to see where that goes
Give me
and
your
what it means.
optimistic score of this episode.
7. I think the upside is 7, and the downside is like a 2 or a 3. It could be real bad.
Come on, man. The dogfight was amazing. Come
Yeah,
on.
right. That you get a point for that. You get a point for the end. I don't know if you get a point for the middle if it doesn't connect.
Fair enough. I mean, at a minimum, it's going to connect to the old story, right? Because this is the
Baby Yoda's a clone
conclusion.
of Baby or
It is
real
the
Yoda,
conclusion
and it was
of
all Pershing's fault.
well, yeah, but it's the conclusion of Dr. Pershing's story, right? He's
Right.
been in 3 seasons of this show, and his character has been kind of a piece of crap through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yes, man.
So he kind of so I think like that's kind of like why I was saying it wasn't fun to rewatch that part of the show this time around. And it's because it's not supposed to be fun because you have to actually ask yourself, well, does this guy really deserve redemption? You know, like he's kind of gross. Like he decided a lot of things were more important than it, or nothing was more important than the science is what I meant to say, you know?
Well,
So
so that struck me as weird here, right? They definitely had him be more sympathetic in this episode than in any of his previous ones, where he really was kind of this amoral, like psycho mad scientist.
but haven't you seen stories like this before of Nazi, war criminals that like are saved because of the valuable information they
Like
have, but like
for all
but that
mankind.
but that doesn't mean
Yeah.
they're actually now good people, right? Like it doesn't
Right.
mean that they started believing different things. And so I think he was definitely trying to convince himself through the whole episode. In fact, you even see him literally in the mirror say, "This is for the good of the rebellion." He
Right.
tries to convince himself before he goes and does something that's completely antithetical to what he just said.
Yeah.
So I think at a minimum it is a conclusion to this character's story, and so I can't fault the episode for that. Like I didn't ever think that character deserved the 20 or 30 minutes that he got in this episode. It was probably like 20 minutes actually. It was actually a pretty fast ride the second time I watched it. It was like, okay, well, we're back to Din and Bo by the end, so it's okay, whatever. But okay, fine. If you want to give it a 2, if at its worst, that's fine.
At its
That's your
worst.
prerogative. That's fine. Ricky, what about you?
I gave last week a 6.5, right?
Yeah, because you're a jerk.
What is the 6.9? And not for the
What
joke.
the
What?
hell?
Not for the joke, but it's. I think I'm with Brian in the TBD boat.
You're not with Brian though, because Brian thinks this episode is inherently worse than last week's.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought last week's was.
Oh no, last week was a 7 or 8 easy.
I hate the
Last
split
week was
last week.
easily a 7 or 8. Easily.
You had
It was
practical effects.
that
You
was
had
a
creatures.
fantastic episode that was only just shy of being beautiful, like the most beautiful episode I've seen in years.
You had R5 being used as a stalking horse. Come on.
Right?
I
I mean, that's why I do the show with you, Ricky. That's what I got to tell myself every time. That's my therapy. That's my
like
Zen
to your
cleanse,
point, like
right?
will I go watch it again? No. Will I go
God.
watch this one again? No. And I think the ones that I do want to go watch again, that's that instant 7-8 territory. Am I
Yeah.
again? But am I upset that I watched this episode? No, I love the story. I think they're going in cool places, but I'm good. I'm good till next week. Let's move on.
All right. Yeah. I'm going to give this episode a 7. I think I've justified my reasons why through the whole episode. I've talked a lot. It's a 7 for me. It was cool that we got comms officer Eli Kane. We finally got a name to her. She was credited as comms officer for 4 episodes previously.
They had to give her a name to give her a toy. So
she's Eli Kane. She will get a toy. That's for
a
sure.
2-pack. Pershing.
She's getting a toy.
With a mind flayer.
Yeah, Mind Flayer. That's a deluxe Comic-Con exclusive right there with the Mind Flayer.
Him strapped
to the Mind Flayer. Pretty colors. You got to add a AA battery. Yeah, it's a 7. I liked it. I especially liked the beginning and the end. Those were chef's kiss.
Yeah.
So would you say it's a double down of Mando episodes? Both chicken on the outside and just bacon and meat or cheese on the inside.
See, I feel like you're trying to force what I named this episode, and
Or going back to the
not.
food.
It's not going to be food based, Ricky. It's not. It's not. All right. We will discuss that in the post show. But I think I just want to say thanks to Brian and to Ricky for coming on, and thanks to our audience for tuning in. If you had fun, please remember to like and subscribe. Brian, if you want, you can let people know where they can find you or what you got going on.
Yeah, I don't really have anything right now, so.
Okay, that's fair enough. You don't even want to tell them where they can buy your game?
Eclipse Phase, Transhuman Science Fiction. It's free. Creative Commons, so
Okay.
Google it. Eclipse Phase.
Well, there you go.
If you like it, give us money.
There you go. That's how you get the money. I was like, how do you get the money if you make it free? But there you go. All right, cool. I think we're going to end this one right now. So I just got to say, you have listened.
And
we
have spoken.